It is unfortunate that instead of speaking about the historic relevance of my ancestors, I feel I must take this opportunity to address such an illustrious and well-connected and like-minded individuals that I have here regarding the pretty dark times we're living in. And that we should do whatever we can in this spiritual battle between good and evil. We are, once again, in the situation where a centralized form of government and its powerful overreach is completely detached from the people and from reality, and with its obsessive desire to implement an utopian new world order. It is therefore clear that everyone with any influence must get together and actively work in creating alternative networks to oppose these utopian ideologues and the warmongering military-industrial influence on the media, politics, and the state of debates. As Europeans with a common Christian heritage, we know that the Christian way is a way for the transformation of life and not the affirmation of an utopian ideology and reckless, self-destructive tolerance. It is therefore time to act and apply some practical resistance. And so my purpose here today is to encourage all of you to create a counterpoint, a counter-movement to this new world order dictatorship, and making use of your considerable influence and network. So, my first appeal to you is to be loyal to your compatriots. Accept the truth that international organizations act mostly in their own interest and follow very specific, predetermined long-term agendas, which rarely reflect the voting public's wishes. These governmental and non-governmental organizations are experts in concealing their agenda with a cloak of humanitarianism, with actually is the ultimative global psyop. What Karl Marx called the run through the institutions has been completed. The well-oiled machinery behind a facade of democracy, such as the United Nations, the Bank of International Settlement, Monetary Fund, International World Bank, and others, they have been established and they are fully functional, affecting every individual nation and their citizens. Just for an example, the United Nations High Commission for Refugees and its 20,305 employees have been very active in Europe in the last 20 years or so. This UNHCR uses this legitimacy to impose policies by creating legal barriers that impede national sovereign decision-making, and thereby acting against the very clearly expressed will of the people concerning migration. So I urge you to use every possibility you have to prioritize reason over emotion, and to have the courage to advocate true Christian values over sanctimonious trends and to have the courage to defend the needs of your people rather than the utopian fantasies of an ideal global state. Secondly, I urge you not to be afraid of social media. Encourage open and scientific discussion and the open availability of information. Realize and accept that the alternative media is currently the only guarantor of the free flow of information and open discussion. I know this requires a certain change of mind, especially in the elder generation, to accept the truth that the established media is not necessarily the most reliable source of information, and that its primary objective is not to relate the state of affairs, but rather to serve the goals and objectives of the globalist agenda. So if you are in the position which requires media presence, use these social medias, use these bloggers and vloggers and spread through social media your message. Because the more we talk about Christian values and the morals and foundations of our Western civilization, the more people will see that they are not alone. And the more cohesion in the need for change we can create. And finally, for those among you who are active or retired military, I urge you to create a counter movement to the current warmongering, rampant in every European institution. You're very influential people with weight in your networks. Use it to change the perception of the people. I mean, history has shown that waging war with Russia was never a good idea. And Russia repeatedly intimated that it's not interested in an escalation of the conflict all over Europe. And it's even doubtful if they would be able to escalate militarily. And it's interesting that leftist parties, who historically always stood for the anti-war and the peace movement, and defunding the police and, of course, the military, are now the greatest spokesman for the necessity of an all-out war in Europe against Russia. So let's say it out loud. This latest obsession of the globalist agenda is bleeding taxpayers' money out of Europe instead of investing it into European infrastructure, technology, and desperately needed the reduction of debt. So be loyal to your people. Everything must be done to stop this hemorrhaging. Thank you. I mean, at this point of the civilization's development, war should really be no longer an option for the resolution of conflicts. And I can tell you as an officer myself, every officer and every soldier knows that the worst peace is always better than the best war, if such a thing even exists. So Europe needs good men. Europa needs you to defend its Christian values. For if she does not declare herself a Christian society, she will have no future. She will continue to degenerate, she will lose her values, and she will be the victim of the barbarians inside the gate. But we can, and we have to, call upon the armor of God by focusing on the strength it gives. So allow me to finish by quoting Ephesians chapter 6, verse 10 to 13. Finally, be strong in the Lord and the strength of his might. Put on the whole armor of God, that you may be able to stand against the schemes of the devil. For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the cosmic powers over this present darkness, against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly places. Therefore, take up the whole armor of God, that you may be able to withstand in the evil day. And having done all, to stand firm. Thank you.